I know, you want easy care plants, right? Well, you won't find them here. Sorry, I'm more the prophet of doom kind of YouTuber, but I'm protecting you from the pain of buying a so-called easy care plant only to find that it's a pain in the Excuse me. Thank me by subscribing or liking or something. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the pickle plant. This fella certainly has me in a pickle, let me tell you. You know why? Because he actually appeared in my 20 impossible to kill plants video that I lovingly made last year that I now want to strip him out of for being so naughty since and making me look silly. He's a down tooler, plain and simple. Whenever I brush past this guy by trying to tame his monstrously hairy neighbour, the slightest change in wind results in a bunch of leaves hitting the deck. It's annoying because I don't know they're there and I end up squishing them with my feet. It creates an awful mess. Look at the stems, some of them haven't got any leaves left. He's clearly not a happy bunny and I'm not sure why. I bought him at Dobby's and he was a champ. The pickly nature of the leaves piqued my interest, so I brought him home. He was doing alright, but over time he's thrown more and more of his toys out of the pram, the petulant little diva. I've had a fair few comments asking about him in videos where he's made a guest appearance over the last few months, so if you're thinking of getting one, it's probably best to keep it in a vacuum. Not a hoover, I mean an airless vacuum, so there aren't any air movements to knock off the leaves. That's a joke, by the way. I don't want people actually keeping their plants in vacuum chambers. I'll have lawsuits coming out the wazoo. I think he probably needs a repot actually. Let's have a look. By the way, if you want to boss houseplant care and be the plant parent you always dreamed you'd be, then check out my Houseplant SOS course that I lovingly put together over 6 months. It's jam-packed full of awesome video tutorials and everything you need to know to have plants your friends are jealous of. It even comes with a pack of 30 common plants and how to look after them. Check out the details in the description. The spider plant is apparently one of the easiest going plants out there. As if. Easy going? Scrooge is easier going than this Wally. Even the fountain of all knowledge, ChatGPT itself, includes it on its list of the 10 easiest plants to look after. I mean, what could go wrong, right? Turns out, a lot. This plant is nowhere near the 10 easiest to look after. It's not even in the top 500. If you have one yourself, then you know exactly what I'm talking about and what I'm going to say. There are actually 2 problems. Brown tips on the leaves and leaf fading. It's always brown tips on the leaves, isn't it? Our friend is a sensitive soul. Doesn't like it too bright, too dark, too wet, too dry, too loud, too quiet, too anything. Make the slightest mistake and boom, brown tips. Mess up the light and boom, faded leaves. Even an expert like me has bother with this guy. Did you write this? I'm no expert, you know. I'm just a mug on the internet pretending to know stuff about plants. Can you not write stuff like that, please? Don't let me put you off buying it if you really dig its style. Just know that it becomes preloaded with ugly leaves once it realises it's homesick. The best advice I've got is to dechlorinate your tap water. And as if by magic, I'll pop a link up in the top right corner all about that. Voila! But watch it after this. Right, what other rubbish is ChatGPT saying? Let's have a look. The rubber plant at number 10. I can see what it's saying, but in my experience, there's a few things you need to know first before you get into bed with this plant. Not literally, of course. First, it has a temperamental nature. With this plant, the first cut is the deepest. Pruning him can result in weird and wacky results. Look at my green one, for example. I cut it right back in the hopes it will branch out with 2 stems on either side to grow out like a tree, but no. What did it do? It threw out 4 new stems all on the same side of the old one, creating this lopsided creature from the Black Lagoon. I exaggerate of course, but it's not really what I was intending. It even happened to my Taneki. I chopped it in half and it basically shoved it in my face, told me who's the real boss around here, and replaced the cut-off part with just 1 stem that is growing out to the side. So now I've got a leaning Tower of Pisa on my hands. Where's the other stem, you ask? Way down nearer the bottom, growing at a snail's pace. Don't get me wrong, pruning this plant can be great. I've got 3 examples where it's worked wonderfully, but just be warned, it's not an exact science. And then we have the floppy growth at the top. I am tempted to add a dirty innuendo there, but I'll keep it clean. This one puzzles me. Thankfully it's rare, so it doesn't come up that often. A new leaf comes out erect, and then as it's hardening off, it becomes floppy. So much for the refrain. I think it's a watering problem, maybe too wet as it's trying to harden off. You get the idea. The Dieffenbachia. Oh, the Dieffenbachia. If you ever hear someone say the words, Dieffenbachias are one of the easiest plants to look after, then show them the door. Literally and figuratively. I mean, just what do I need to do to make you happy? Look at you, you're a straggly mess. You can always tell someone has struggled with a plant when you see tall bare stems with rings where the leaves should be. Look at mine. Rings but no leaves. This means I've had to prune them off. And prune them off I have, many times. Why? Because they've turned yellow and mushy. It's settled down now a bit because I've realised it hates having wet feet and sun in its eyes. So basically I neglect him now. I leave him to fend for himself on the floor next to the big boys, and he seems happier, weirdly. But let me tell you, it's been a journey to get there. So no, not an easy plant. Echeverias are weird. Yes, that's how I say it. I've always said Echeveria, and Echeveria just sounds off to me now. I mean, look at mine, bless him. What's he doing? Look at the mess you've got yourself into, mate. Chasing the light, aren't you? Just relax, you're not a muff. The sun isn't going anywhere either. You don't always have to be on your tippy toes. This is called etiolation if you're interested. No? The solution is as simple as it is brutal and gives me a worrying amount of joy every time I do it each year. If you buy one, particularly the ones from IKEA, just know that this is something you'll have to be doing on a regular basis. Not up for the task, then just buy jade instead. Syngoniums lull you into a false sense of security. Indulge me a while I'll be a little bit dramatic for a minute. 1 week they're looking full, vibrant and healthy, and the next they look like a straggly mess with yellow leaves or stems that want to do yoga. Seriously, my pink Syngonium loves to do yoga. The only problem is they can't get back up. It's stuck bent over like it's slipped a disc. So I've bought him a couple of sticks to help keep him upright. Not the best solution I know, but it does seem to do a job. His green sister on the other hand has a history of yellow leaves. Probably all the root pruning I do to it for this channel actually, but anyway, she looks like she's been through the ringer, doesn't she? So they seem easy to care for, but you do need to keep an eye on them because they tend to go downhill fast. Every video where I talk about plants that annoy me or that you need to be careful of, I always mention a Tradiscantia of some type. What have you got to say for yourself, eh? They seem innocent enough in the shops because they're so full and lush, but trust me, it's a trap! You know the problem at this point, the stems get longer and the leaves die back, blah 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 blah. If you're new here and don't know the story, then check out the video in the top right now, but do it in a new tab. Should I disown you and banish you from the house? You've got to show me something real quick. Look Aloe Vera, you've made it onto ChatGPT's list of 10 of the easiest plants to look after. As with most things ChatGPT says, I disagree. Sorry mate, you're a pain in the backside. I actually think this is the hardest succulent to keep happy. It's probably just me to be fair, or maybe my house? I know, a workman never blames his tools, but I do, okay? I don't actually have mine anymore. I got sick of it and lobbed it in the bin. It's sin? It kept going grey. I'd read that this was because it didn't like the sun too much, so I moved it back and it still went grey and mushy. And no, it wasn't overwatering. I hardly ever watered it. Oh, bummer. Moving swiftly onto my next plant, and we have, what's this called? The Peperomia Hope. Well, let me tell you, this guy doesn't have much hope in my house. Get it? Now, he's meant to be the easiest going Peperomia you can buy, and I can get behind that to some degree. He's not too much trouble apart from the extra long stems that it's growing. Unlike his friends, the spider plant and Dieffenbachia, he hopes to have as much sun as possible. Without tons of sun, how can he possibly hope to have stems with small gaps between the leaves? I'll stop. I'm finding it tricky to give it the light it needs to stop etiolating its stems. Etiolating? I've moved it all over my house, but I've just not been able to find that Goldilocks zone. So I've plonked him under my grow lights on top of this cabinet and forgotten about him. He's probably hoping for a repot at some point. Sorry, I'll move on. Some honourable mentions. This one isn't actually touted as being easy going. The Philodendron Melanochrysum. Sorry, I mean Melanochrysum. What a beautiful specimen this guy is when in rude health. Those leaves, mwah. Problem is, those leaves rarely come out like they're meant to. Nope, they tend to get stuck unfurling and end up deformed. It's probably just adjusting to my home because, you know, plants are fussy like that, but I ran out of patience. What did I do? I cut it down and started again. Dramatic I know, but I really think this was the best thing for it. Let it start a brand new stem that is born in my home, and hopefully I'll have better luck at not being an idiot. We'll see. Oh, and as a bonus, I can raise the cuttings and sell them on at extortionate prices. Win. This one actually has a happy ending, don't you even? I've complained about it ever since it arrived in my home last year. Not while it was listening, of course, I am a good host. Its leaves were going brown and ripping as they were unfurling and, well, just know it was a right mess basically. But look at her now. She's looking glorious, hairy legs and all. This gal is fast becoming my favourite child. Oops, I should say that quietly. I guess I'm a sucker for the redemption arc of the story. Talking of redemption arcs, have a quick peek at my Alocasia fry deck. Now, Alocasia should never belong on the easy care list because believe me, they're a nightmare. Look at mine a few weeks ago and compare him to now. It's a different animal altogether, looking so much nicer, and it's even got new spikes coming out of the soil. The main problem with these plants, of course, is the one leaf disappearing as soon as a new one comes out act. Well, I just so happen to have a video that explains all that, as well as some other top Alocasia tips that I'll leave a link to on the screen now. Go on, click on the link and subscribe.